Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and in this video I want to share the 7 books that I was able to finish over the course of July. It's a little bit lower than I normally do, but you'll see why pretty quick. And we're going to do things a little bit differently. A lot of you have been asking for like a nature walk, a garden tour, and that kind of stuff. So I'm actually going to do like kind of a garden overlay, just like while I'm rambling on and stuff, and yeah, you'll get to view that instead of just boring old me. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to show the books right here real fast. That way you'll know what I'm talking about when we're doing it. And we'll go from there. So first up is The Enlightenment, The Pursuit of Happiness, 1680 to 1790 by Richie Robertson. And as you can tell, this is a buddy read that took up a whole lot of my time here. Before I forget, let's do the Kindle book. It is The Crown Games of the Olympics by David Lunt. Put that right there. We got, see, The Nature of Our Cities, Harnessing the Power of the Natural World to Survive a Changing Planet by Nadina Yale. Stephen Jay Gould's Dinosaur in a Haystack. Think by Sven de Brinkman. The Defense of Socrates, Euthyphro and Crito by Plato. And A Secret History of Sharks by John Long. Alright, so let's start with the elephant in the room with The Enlightenment here. Yeah, The Pursuit of Happiness by Richie Robertson. So this was just a monster book. I think it was about 800 pages of text, another 200 pages of end matter and that sort of thing. I usually read most of the footnotes and endnotes of books and stuff when I'm interested, but there was literally like 100-something pages of notes, and the formatting of the notes was just bad. There was no spacing or anything. It was just like a wall of, like a brick wall of text. So I kind of gave up on that just because there were so many notes and it was just not going super well. I will say this was a really great history book. I don't know tons and tons on the Enlightenment proper. I know the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment kind of overlap quite a bit, but I know a lot more kind of like on that end of things rather than the more like the philosophical and I guess the ideas of the Enlightenment and that sort of thing, kind of like the vibe everyone was sort of going for. And you learn tons in this book. Like I said, it's just the scope is crazy big, 800 pages of all kinds of stuff. I did feel like some of the entries, it's kind of almost, I wouldn't say broken down like a encyclopedia per se or anything. I don't know if he's trying to emulate like Diderot's encyclopedia or anything, but each major, I think there's 14 major chapters, and most of them are broken into lots of different little ones. But you get all kinds of stuff, like sociability, for example, was one that I found really interesting. So you have entries on politeness, the public sphere, societies, the republic of letters, the ethos of scholarship, the virtual public sphere, censorship, and unsociability, Hume versus Rousseau. So you get all kinds of just different things. Lots of different figures. I'm going to be looking like and researching like Diderot and his encyclopedia and like another work and that sort of thing. And there's a whole bunch of figures I never heard of that I'm going to be doing, trying to like find some more works on them. Fortunately, he does have a giant bibliography as well, so I don't think that should be too hard. Alright, next up we have Stephen Jay Gould's Dinosaur in a Haystack. So Stephen Jay Gould was a super famous evolutionary natural history serial writer for lots of different magazines. I think Natural History was his big one, but I think he also did National Geographic and Smithsonian and a few others and that sort of stuff. Most of his journal writings and magazine writings have been collated into tons of different books over the years. Ever since Darwin was his first one, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So now, like, whenever I happen to see one, I'm going to be picking up others. I think there's like 8 or so. And he's probably most famous for the concept of punctuated equilibrium, when he did like fossil work in the Burgess Shale in Canada and stuff with some colleagues. They kind of noticed, evolution probably doesn't like go on just on a nice like straight line trajectory, like, with improvements and differences and mutations and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of pretty stable for the most part, and then all of a sudden you have something catastrophic happen, and then all hell breaks loose and all kinds of stuff changes. But anyways, this is just, like I said, a ton of different essays that he wrote for a bunch of different things. The ones I found actually most interesting were the ones, this was written in the mid-90s, or the entries were written in the mid-90s, so it was like right after Jurassic Park came out. And there's a lot of references to it, like kind of the good stuff and the bad stuff that the movie did and everything. And I found that actually just like super interesting. Alright, so next up we have The Nature of Our Cities by Nadina Yale. Let's see, harnessing the power of the natural world to survive a changing planet. Now this one was pretty cool. I was sent this by Mariner Books, so thank you to them for that. And this is all about all the different technologies that cities are using to try to become more eco-friendly, more green in the coming futures. Like I said, I live in a super rural place, so I don't really I'm not gonna lie, this is like a topic I haven't really like read a whole lot on. Like it's touched upon sometimes in like my other nature books and stuff, but it's nothing I've really focused on. So I was really pleased to be able to kind of do so with this. And each chapter has kind of a main theme, whether that's flooding and drought, wildfires, biodiversity loss, just like tree cover. And what the author does is she kind of talks about the importance of like each of these topics, and then she interviews or works with different scientists or engineers or just anyone in the field working on this stuff, the local arborists or whatever. And they kind of go over all the different technologies. Some of them are very like cutting edge, drones and things like out in the wilderness, like sensor relays for fires, all kinds of stuff. Just trying to find ways to mitigate some of the kind of climate scenarios that are occurring. Like I said, a lot of places are experiencing, rapid floods, all kinds of stuff. Obviously, wildfires are a big prominent one now in a lot of places around the world currently. So it was really interesting just to see like kind of what's been going on to try to, I guess, be done about a lot of these things. What is working, what is not working, like what are some policies that are just like absolutely terrible. But it was important to note too that there really isn't like a one size fits all for hardly anybody. So even like fire suppression, for example, there's like usually 3 or 4 things you got to be doing at like several different levels. Not just like you got to have national stuff, federal, state stuff. Local municipalities have to be involved with different kinds of things. And like what works in some areas just doesn't like work well in another. But yeah, it's just kind of just highlighting all the stuff like people at least are trying to do to kind of slow everything down, and potentially, what if everything was like ever implemented like all simultaneously and funded and all that kind of stuff, what that actually might look like for like a better future for people. Next up, we have The Secret History of Sharks, The Rise of the Ocean's Most Fearsome Predators by John Long. And I was sent this by Ballantine Books, so thank you to them for that as well. This did not disappoint. This is another 5-star shark book for me, so I'm 3 for 3 with shark books. So that's really cool. This one has a heavy emphasis on the archaeological and evolutionary history of sharks. All the way back to like when they branched off from like some of the bony fishes and that sort of thing, way back in the day. So that was definitely really interesting. And one of the main concepts of the book is how sharks have survived every major mass extinction that they've been a part of. Maybe not with flying colors per se, but a lot of different taxonomic groups could not say the same thing. The only critique I would say with this book is I wish there's a little bit more focus on like kind of the current history of sharks, though they do get like a big unit. And what actually happened was a lot of the kind of natural history stuff, such as like their electromagnetic sense and everything, is kind of covered when it first like develops in the evolutionary record and how they kind of learned about it. So I guess that's not even really a critique. It was just, I don't know, that was just me trying to nitpick and try to find something, I guess, for some constructive criticism, but probably didn't do a good job there. Like I said, I did learn a ton. Megalodons are covered for, everyone that's like super like pumped for like things like Shark Week and all that kind of stuff. Like it is crazy. Tons of illustrations, tons of photographs, tons of archaeology, tons of science. Just really, really well done. And I'll be doing like individual book reviews of both of these works in the near future. Then we also have the Crown Games of the the Crown Games of the Ancient Greeks by David Lund. This one was just kind of a fun overview. Just kind of, I'm reading another one too as well for the Ancient Olympics, just because the Olympics are going on right now. This one is definitely more for those who are already a little bit familiar with kind of the Greek world. This has a lot of like archaeology of the 4 Greek Olympic sites: Nemea, Olympia, Isthmia, and Pythia. And a lot of it is more like kind of on the, I guess, the different kind of ideological concepts, like agony, arete, all that kind of stuff that the Greeks were kind of idealizing for the Olympic Games and stuff. But a lot of it, there is a big heavy emphasis on the archaeological and textual record of the Olympic Games, not so much on like the actual competitions themselves. And then next up, I have my 2 kind of philosophy-ish works. Well, I guess Plato's definitely like philosophy. Like, we'll start with that one. So we have the Defense of Socrates, Euthyphro, and Crito. These are just, like I said, I've been saying before in the Discord and everything that I'm running on like philosophy and stuff. You can't really go wrong with Plato. They're super readable. They're super approachable. Even if you've never really read a lot of any of this kind of stuff before, you could literally just pick this up today, start reading it, and get something from it. Plato did a great job, like in that sense, is like they're like literary classics. Euthyphro is kind of dealing with the concept of piety. It's like Socrates kind of, these 3 kind of go together. Euthyphro being kind of talking with a person while he's like waiting to go to court and stuff on the nature of piety. Defense of Socrates is like, you know, his trial and everything. And his sort of defense of himself, where it's a defense of himself, but it's really more of a defense of the philosophical life. And then the Crito is, after he's been convicted, he is in prison. Yeah, some of his friends kind of hatch a plan to break him out and help him escape and pay for it and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of a dialogue on the nature of justice and what is right and that sort of thing. So they kind of go together. Thoroughly enjoyable. Definitely check it out. And then lastly, we have Think by Sven Brinkman, which I just picked up on a whim a lot because of the cover and stuff, to be honest. But he's a Danish psychologist with a heavy bent towards philosophy and that sort of thing. I took 6 pages of notes on this like 100-page book. I just thoroughly just enjoyed it. It's all about the main thrust of the book is how thinking is like a part of us, and it kind of, it's just like an important aspect of our life, but not everyone uses it or utilizes it in a good way. And how a thoughtful life just makes your life better, makes your life happier. But kind of like, what are the things that get in the way of doing that? I think I'll probably actually do like a more thorough review of this one. I'll have to think of something for like my philosophy books and everything. But yeah, just really enjoyed it for such a short work. It's hard to explain, I guess, too. But he even deals with some of the concepts of, you know, where does like thinking come from? Had a really interesting chapter and stuff like that. But he also drops a lot of philosophical names, some that I had heard of and some that I hadn't heard of. So I'm going to be perusing the bibliography too as well, to try to find some more works to read going forward. But he does it also in such a way that it's not like, it doesn't feel very academic-y or super like scholarly monograph style or anything. It's very readable, especially in translation. So there you have it. Those are the 7 books that I was able to pick up during, or I guess not pick up, finish during the month of July. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorite book that you read last month was. I'm always on the lookout for good recommendations and everything like that. And always remember, whatever you end up reading going forward, read victoriously.